Patrick, lovely to see you. You're classic Le Mans, you love classic cars, you've been with FIVA for many, many years. Would you like to give us some of the background to what you've seen and learnt at FIVA over those years and how things have changed?
Well, I'll try to make it short because it's a lot to tell. Exactly. A lovely Rollet Pilin made in Tours, a lovely, lovely car. No, well, very, very happy to see you too, Malcolm. Well, I joined FIVA in 2004 and I started being in a commission dealing with culture, then legislation, and in 2013 I ran for president. I was lucky enough to be elected. In 2 words, lots of things happened in that time, but with the team, we tried to achieve 2 things. One is to have professionals to join FIVA, which was, I think, necessary because they are part of the game, they are part of our heritage movement, and without them we wouldn't do much. They maintain our cars, they restore or preserve them very well. And the second thing was to insist on the heritage, a cultural dimension of the historic movement, historic vehicle movement. So I think the climax of that was in 2017 when we had an agreement with UNESCO and signed a partnership. So I think that's good.
Okay, and things change. We're facing climate change, we're facing all sorts of more and more, shall we say, blockages to our hobbies. I'm working with FIA and FIM on a strategy with FIVA. Are you seeing it affect France particularly at the moment?
Well, like every country, I suppose, we have an issue with the low emission zones. It's a European issue. The Brits are out of it, so they are more or less. Well, actually, it's a world issue. I mean, in India, I know they've got big problems, and so we are trying to have exemptions from restrictions in low emission zones based on the fact that as historic vehicles with a certain age and certain conditions as to the way they're preserved, we do not use them on weekdays. We use them only for leisure. We don't tend to go in heavy traffic in town centres, and our carbon performance is behind us when we drive an historic vehicle. We don't destroy them, you see.
Around us, we're sitting in this 100-year-old Romain Pilon, and it's beautiful. I just wish I had the keys to start it, so take you for a drive.
We could have, yes,
but
that would be nice.
It's immaculate, and again, it's very advanced for its age, and it's also very comfortable.
Absolutely.
But what we're looking to do is try and maintain the skills needed to maintain cars like this in this sort of condition, and we're certainly having success in some countries, not necessarily enough countries. Any comments on that? How FIVA can help?
I think so. I think one of the advantages of FIVA is that I think about 70 countries are part of it from the 5 continents, and it's a wonderful place to have best practices exchanges. And there are countries like Britain, but also smaller countries like Hungary, for instance, where they developed wonderful programs to train young people for the restoration or preservation of these vehicles. So if countries are a bit late or not enough concerned about it, they just come to FIVA and try to get the right practices.
So Patrick, how can FIVA help get the passion that we have for the old vehicles, be they cars, motorcycles, utilitarian? How can we transfer that passion to the next generation and the generation beyond them?
It's a very important question, and I'm not sure to have the answer. I think it's a sociological issue, meaning that the young people do not necessarily like cars or motorbikes the way we did. When I was at the lycée, young and beautiful, oh, come on. I talked cars with my friends and young girls, of course. These days, I hope they still talk about young girls. I'm not sure they talk about cars, so they or bikes. So they talk about, internet and that sort of thing. So there's a switch, really. So how can we interest young people the way they were naturally before? It's not obvious. So there are probably several answers. Just out of my mind, accept young timers, because there's probably a relationship between the age of the owner and the age of the car or the bike. Try to bring them to events, let them drive historic vehicle, get the feel of it, talk about them. When there is an event, and there are so many events with historic vehicle, describe the history of the car, of the motorbike, of the brand, whatever. Do interest the people, because within the crowds there are young people, and maybe it's a way to get them interested. I take an example. I don't want to make things difficult, because we must try to do that, but young people less and less know how to change gears. They're used to automatic. And when on the worst of the worst is one of these cars like the one we have now, it's not synchronized. Synchro-meshed, I mean. So it's awfully difficult.
It needs a skill. That is
now, yes, you have to learn about it. And
yeah.
when you manage to change gears without horrible noises,
Crunch.
you're pretty proud of yourself. The young people should be as well.
Yeah. In fact, I was on an event in Portugal about 3 weeks ago, and there were a whole series of Ford Model A's driving, and they have no synchro-mesh. And one of the drivers was telling me how proud he was to be able to change the gear smoothly, and the owner didn't hear him. So good for him. But it's a skill, and you've got to practice it.
You've got to learn it.
Yeah. Anyway, let's sort of wrap up with this event. It's 100 years this has been celebrating this year. That's a fantastic achievement.
Yeah. Le Mans is a world-class event, definitely.
Yes.
And so is Le Mans Classic, bringing as many people as the proper Le Mans. As a matter of fact, over 200,000 people are expected during this weekend.
Yep.
Enormous. In France, at least, it's the biggest, definitely. Way in front of shows like Retromobile, which is pretty good too, but it's about half the people. Now the people can see the thing, can hear them, can touch them, can smell them. I think you play with your senses.
The whole experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well, Patrick, thank you very much for giving up your time.
Most welcome.
And I hope you've enjoyed sitting in this lovely comfy car.
I did, very much so.
I certainly did. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.